longer Ray 5 laser, and as I mentioned in my previous videos, this was provided to me to test and review, which I have been doing along the line here with different videos. We're going to get into the pros and cons of it coming up. Hi, I'm Roger. Welcome to the shop, and as I mentioned at the very beginning here, we're going to talk about the pros and cons and what I have done and tested with this longer Ray 5 laser. So as you can see here, you can engrave on all kinds of things, and I did a specific video on the glass tiles, as you can see, and then I've done some engraving on wood. We do a lot of signs. We do a large number of ceramic tiles. As you can see here, I did some cutouts just to check and test it to see how it would do. It does fine. It would be better with air assist, of course. Any diode laser cuts better with air assist. That's just a known fact. This does not have air assist. Could be put on? Well, sure. You'd have to do a little engineering to do it, but yes, it could be done. So what are some things you should not engrave on? High density polyethylene, like what a 5-gallon bucket's made out of, plastic bucket. That'll just melt and it'll stink and it'll probably catch fire. Styrofoam, that just melts and it puts off a noxious fume. One thing that's extremely important not to be messing around with on your laser is PVC or vinyl. For example, here's a piece of marine vinyl. Will this laser cut it? Of course it would. But it will also release chlorine gas. And same thing if you're any other type of vinyl or PVC. As you cut that with a laser, it releases chlorine gas. Chlorine gas is not only bad for all the cells in your body, and it's poisonous, but it will corrode everything, including all of the works on your laser, the optics, the shafts, the sprockets, anything metal. It's going to corrode it. So you do not want to use a laser for that. Another one is ABS. It puts off a really nasty fume and all it does is melt. Polycarbonate. That's what the shield's made out of on your laser. It's excellent at absorbing infrared energy. All it's going to do is melt and stink. You're not going to get a good cut out of it. Lexan is another thing you don't want to try cutting with a laser. Of course, you don't want to try cutting anything that's white or clear because it's just not going to work. It doesn't absorb the infrared enough to be able to cut or do anything. Something that I did try it out on was, this is called Sunbrella. Cut my little bear out of there. I don't know why you would need a bear on a Sunbrella. Sunbrella is a marine canvas and upholstery fabric, and the way it's normally cut is not with scissors but with a hot knife. And it makes a little bit of a smell when it's being cut. It's a synthetic fabric, but the laser does an excellent job of cutting it. So if you needed to do some intricate things and it would fit on your laser, there's a little bit of a thought. What else can it do? Leather. However, not pleather. That's synthetic leather. That is basically a vinyl, and it's going to release chlorine gas, and you don't want to do that. Regular leather, tan leather, cowhide, suede, goatskin, pigskin, that type of thing. I did not engrave any here, but I've done it with other lasers, and diode lasers work great for that. Aluminum. If the aluminum is anodized or coated, yes, it will engrave it. Stainless steel. Well, it depends on the grade of stainless steel. I was doing a little bit of a testing on here with a stainless steel backing plate and actually put an engraving of a leaf on it as it cut through the material I was cutting. So yes, you can engrave stainless steel. However, it takes a very slow speed and high power. Etching glass. If the glass is coated, yes, you can. There's different ways to do it. One of the popular ways is to use an oil, WD-40. Some people use Dawn dish soap. Some people use what they call a cold galvanizing compound. The only thing you have to be careful there is, as it engraves that glass and goes through that zinc in that compound, it releases some fumes. You want to make sure that it's ventilated away from you. You don't want to be breathing that stuff. So we'll get into the pros and cons. Start with the pros. It is extremely accurate, and you get a very fine laser beam with that 0.08 resolution, I guess they call it. I did a mandala here of a feather on a piece of pine, and as you can see, it's extremely accurate and finely detailed. So I thought, well, if it's good on pine, let's try it on a tile with even finer lines, and it did a fantastic job of it. And this is one of our real popular coasters, so we'll be running some batches of those on here. I've done some other ones here, as you saw in the little scan of the things I've engraved. Everything has turned out good. Another big plus on this laser is the ability to use it offline. You do not have to have your computer tethered to it, and I've made several times. There, this one. I've done 40 of these on this laser using the offline controller. And it's just a matter as I walk by, as one finishes up, shove another one in, hit go, and away it goes. And I could have the computer tied up on another laser. So that's great. Engraving on wood. This is a, by the way, if you want to practice and you don't want to spend a lot on wood, you can buy these shapes at Dollar Tree for $1.25. If you go to try to buy a piece of 4mm plywood, 12 inches square at the craft store or home store, you're liable to pay $5 for that. So this is a good thing to practice on. Just kind of something to keep in mind. I did a very fine engraving here with our craft logo. This little building has very fine detail in it. Did a very good job of that. Of course, did a little duck over here with some cattails, just try things out. On cedar. Sometimes we color fill these, so I tried this on some Western red cedar. Cedar makes a lot of smoke, but it does do a very, very good job of it. Another little practice thing from Dollar Tree are these little, well, roughly 4-inch square pieces of 1/8 plywood. You get I don't know, 4 or 6 in a pack for $1.25. So they're good to practice on too, and use for some little projects. We also do a lot of wood signs that we sell. This is not finished yet. It's just freshly engraved. It's on a piece of Western red cedar, and the detail on it is excellent. I had no skips, I had no jumps. Everything is just like it should be. Okay, another pro on this is you can use it over Wi-Fi. I personally do not do projects over Wi-Fi, whether it be a laser, 3D printer, my die cutter, any of that stuff, because if you get what they call drop packets in that Wi-Fi signal, your project's ruined. And so I don't even risk it. Yes, you can connect this to Wi-Fi and run on your network. You can operate it off your phone. You can send the Wi-Fi signal to your computer. I did do that just to try to see if it worked, and yes, it does work. So you can have it on your Wi-Fi and you can send the signal that way. You're much better off either using the USB cable, having a direct connection, or having your project on an SD card and running it offline. All you need is somebody to start up a microwave oven somewhere close, or maybe the neighbor's got a lawnmower that doesn't have suppressed ignition on it. It interrupts that Wi-Fi signal. Your project's ruined. Something to keep in mind. Same thing with printers. Yeah, Wi-Fi printing is neat for text. When you're doing high quality graphics, photographs, or we do a lot of sublimation, and I'm printing my sheets for sublimation, highest quality, lowest speed. I want the best it can be. I never use Wi-Fi. If you're getting lines in your prints, or you're getting lines in your engravings, and you can't figure out why, you don't see it in laser Gerbil or in Lightburn, but it's on your project. If you're using Wi-Fi, that could be the problem. I've seen it especially with printers. So just a little tip there. Now we'll get back to the laser. Okay, any cons? Well, of course there are. Okay, here's a couple of the things I don't like. This cable. I had a problem with this. As much as I fiddled with it, would always hang down here and would be in my work path. Hence I printed this on a 3D printer to keep this up in the air. The other cable over here that runs on along the y-axis, I don't have a problem with it getting into the work. It pretty much stays out there. But if I've got clutter on the table, like I do now, like I always do, it's a flat surface, you put stuff on it, it'll catch things, so I have to watch that. What I may do here in the future is put a drag chain on this. I've done that with a couple of my other lasers, so that's kind of a negative point. Another negative point is this has no homing function because it has no limit switches. Whether or not it would be possible to wire in limits, I don't know. I haven't looked at the schematics, or I haven't taken this apart to see if there's an opening on that board for that. For using limit switches or not, it would really be nice to be able to have a homing function. I do work from center on all my projects, but it's still nice to be able to have that homing function. And it also prevents the laser from taking off and banging into things if it has limits, in case you get wild with it. Okay, and another con, and this is not a big deal at all really, but this shield here, it's held on by two little screws, one on each side. And I thought maybe you would be able to adjust that up and down. You can't. That's drilled and tapped right there. That's stationary. One of the tests I was doing with the glass tiles, I had to take this shield off. I don't recommend doing that, but I wanted to try it out to see how well it would work. And it worked fine, but then you got to put the shield back on. Another little tiny con, when you get the module all the way down close to your work area, and it gets to the extreme, when you go to tighten your knobs back up, make sure that you're straight on the bracket here. It is possible to cock this like this a little bit. So you want, as you can see, I can move that a little bit. So you got to make sure you're straight and square in there. Even though there are spacers on the back to keep you in that track, there is enough play that you can get crooked. So you want to keep an eye on that. So what do I think of this laser overall? It's fine. I have no complaints about it, other than them little picky things that I always pick about, you know, the cables and that kind of thing. I pick on that on every laser. So this one's not unique to that. I've only had one laser that already had a drag chain on it, you know, built in, but you pay for that too. So you get what you pay for. Okay, my reviews are a little bit different than a lot of people's because yes, I do burn tests. There's a grayscale test there, and there's a test on the back of this one, and I did a little Bears logo, even though the team is not as good as they should be. I do burn tests, cut tests, and burn tests on every piece of thing I do. So yes, I did all those, but I'm not going to go into detail on those. You need to run your own burn tests. Every laser is going to be different. I may have two of these identical side by side, and one would differ slightly from the other. As I mentioned earlier, in some of my other videos I've done on, for example, on engraving these ceramic tiles, every laser I get, and I have 9 of them, I do a burn test on it, and although a lot of them are the 5.5 watt, every one is a little bit different. So I have to keep track of that, especially in my light burn libraries, to know which laser I'm using when I'm doing a certain batch of tiles so that they come out right. Next, a question I get quite a bit on other lasers, maybe 3D printer, anything, you know. Is it good for a beginner? Well, yes, but there's going to be a learning curve. Don't, you know, get one of these and just throw your hands up because you can't figure it out. Take your time, read the manual, do some research, watch videos, not just mine, you can watch other people's. If you want to learn light burn, look up the YouTube video channel for the Louisiana Hobby Guy. He does a great job with tutorials on how to learn and use light burn. In fact, his videos are one of the reasons that I don't make how to use light burn videos, because he already did a great job at it. And if you don't want to get on some individual's website, or I should say YouTube channel, you can actually go to Lightburn. They have a lot of tutorials there too on how to use it. So you're going to have to learn how to use it, whether it be a laser, a 3D printer, a die cutter, maybe a new tool. You got to take the time to learn how to use it and use the right tool for the job. Obviously, you wouldn't want to try to cook soup in a colander. You know, that just doesn't work well. If you're wanting to cut steel and stuff, no, a diode laser is not for you. Not at all. But for hobby engraving, We have quite the business with unique craft items and custom-made items in addition to our e-commerce business with our nursery and greenhouses. So even though I'm retired, I stay plenty busy. Don't even get to spend as much time in this shop as I'd like to, constantly having to make something, but that's all right. Keeps me out of trouble. So there's my overall review after doing a lot of testing and playing around with this Longer Ray 5 laser. As I mentioned before, the laser was provided to me by Longer to test, demonstrate, and review. However, they're not paying me to say anything nice about it. It's okay. It has a couple little quirks, but every machine does, and I did point those out. So if you got anything out of this, appreciate getting a thumbs up, always helps the channel. I'm Roger in the shop, Longer Ray 5 laser. They got a little special going on. You can find in the description through, I think, about mid-April. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.